So good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining our discussion today. I'm Jesus Perales, Program Officer with Trellis Foundation. You have tuned into Supporting Modern Learners, Real Examples from College Campuses. This is a special virtual event hosted by both Trellis Foundation and Trellis Strategies. And together we are continuing conversations sparked at last year's Modern Learner Summit, where we connected with higher education leaders, nonprofit partners, and policy stakeholders to explore a central question: how are today's students navigating college, and how can institutions adapt to support them? At the Modern Learner Summit, I introduced a standing room only breakout session on the Caring Campus initiative led by the Institute for Evidence-Based Change. And we're excited to continue that conversation today and to learn how two participating Texas colleges have fostered a culture of support on their campuses. Before I introduce our speakers, I want to let you know that this webinar will be recorded, and the recording and slides will be emailed to all who registered. We welcome you to share questions in the chat or in the Q&A, and we will address as many questions at the end of our discussion. All right, well, let's go ahead and get started. We are fortunate to have with us today Dr. Christy Ponce, President of Temple College, Dr. Kristina Ramirez Wilson, Chief of Performance Excellence and Strategy at Texas A&M University-Kingsville, and Ken Sherwood, Chief Operating Officer and Vice President for Caring Campus at the Institute for Evidence-Based Change. Well, Ken, let's get started with you. You have worked with multiple campuses across the country. Can you tell us what we know about today's learners? Who are they? And what does the research tell us on how important it is for these learners to feel a sense of belonging at their institutions?
Absolutely. I love talking about this subject. Wonderful. Thank you. So I always start with one of the biggest things we know about today's learners is that a significant number of them, if not a majority, are first-generation college-going students. I assume most of you know what that means, but just quickly, it means that they're the first person in their family history to attend college. And so what we've learned about them is that many of them suffer from what we call imposter syndrome. And if you've looked at the research about imposter syndrome, what that means is they just don't feel like they belong here. So even if they have successfully navigated the process of becoming a student, which is very difficult in a lot of instances, they don't know what it means to be a college student. And so there's this sense on their part that they shouldn't even be here. And they often wonder to themselves why they're here. We've also seen a lot of research in recent years that indicates that many of them feel lonely and isolated when they're in college. Now, much of that research goes back to pre-pandemic and referred to the feeling and sense that students had when they were on a college campus where they felt like they didn't belong. But then the pandemic hit, and that problem got even deeper. In fact, the Surgeon General at the time went on a tour of the United States to universities to talk about the fact that students felt lonely. In fact, he called it the epidemic of loneliness. So that's become a major issue that we have faced in dealing with today's learners. We also know that they don't know what they don't know, right? So not only do they not initially know what it means to become a college student and how to navigate that process, but then once they are told that they're a student, they don't know what the experience is going to be like. They don't know what they're supposed to do. They don't know how they're supposed to act. There's so many aspects of being a college student that are completely foreign to them that it adds to that sense of loneliness and isolation. But as we've continued to research and we've started working in this space, and IEBC has been doing Caring Campus for over 7 years now, the research is telling us that once a student feels like they belong at the institution, then that sense of belonging helps them move on and gives them a reason to stay, right? And obviously the key to graduating students is keeping students. So the work that we've been doing in this space all focuses on persistence and continued success. Fairly recent study from Institute for Higher Ed tells us that students feel better about their institution, better about their program, their course of study, if they feel that they belong. And in particular, if they feel supported by their faculty members, right? Making a connection. And so one of the things that we focus on is the ability of Caring Campus to build relationships between students in the institution. all of this research that informs the work we do goes back decades, literally back to the 90s when Dr. Vincent Tinto published his book, Leaving College, which means the actual research goes back into the 80s because Vince was trying to answer the question, why do we lose students? And he was looking at it from 2 points in time. The obvious question was about dropouts, right? So once a student signs up for a class, they start taking classes, but something happens and they leave college, right? But he also wanted to answer the question, why do students stop out? What happens that prevents them from actually navigating and completing the process of becoming a student? And the conclusion he reached was actually very simple. He basically concluded that students come where they feel welcome and they stay where they feel valued and cared for. That research was furthered by Peter Felton and Leah Lambert in 2020 when they released their book, Relationship-Rich Education, which really came to the same conclusion that we keep students when we build relationships with them, right? When they make a connection, not just with the institution, but with an individual at the institution that they can tell cares for them. So based on all that research, my boss, my founder, my friend, Dr. Brad Phillips, created this program called Caring Campus. And when I'm doing a coaching session, I spend a lot of time answering this question, what is Caring Campus? But today I'm going to give a fairly simple overview. The first, and I think most important point, is that it is an intentional effort to make students feel welcome and connected to the institution. One of the things that I often discuss when I'm coaching is that we assume that if you work at a college or university, you care about students, right? That's our starting point. We don't assume or believe that you don't care about them, because why would you work for an institution of higher ed if you didn't care about students? But the question becomes, in your day-to-day interactions with those students, do you intentionally focus on making them feel cared for? Do you intentionally focus on building relationships? Or are you the kind of person who just does these things because it's your personality? It's who you are, right? The way that Caring Campus works is that we focus on a specific set of behaviors, a prescribed set of behaviors that the research and data tells us create that sense of belonging, right? Make students feel welcome and as a part of the institution, or as most of us like to say, a part of the family that we represent at the college or university that we work at. We have noticed through the practice of Caring Campus, which is now extended to roughly 170 colleges and universities nationwide in more than 30 states, is that while we engage in this, what we call coaching process, facilitated coaching, one of the things that happens is that the staff and the faculty at the institution start to connect with one another and build relationships that then help the institution in multiple ways, not the least of which being people are happier when they're at work, right? And we've got decades of research that tells us that when people are happy at work, they're more productive and they're more effective at doing their work, at doing their jobs. We have also discovered that when we engage in this process, it creates an opportunity for the institution to re-examine its policies and practices and identify those places where we're doing things that not only do not facilitate student success, but actually can hinder student success. And I'll tell you, when I'm engaged with a group and I ask the question, so why do you do this thing, right? Why does this policy exist? The number one answer is, well, because that's the way we've always done it, which is a sign to me that the college has little, if any, mechanism to be reflective and ask the question, do these policies and procedures work? Are they valuable and helpful to the students? And so when we engage in the Caring Campus coaching process, we create the opportunity for dialogue, particularly between staff and administration, on the different things that we do all the time that actually are making it harder for students. You can go ahead and go to the next slide, Andrea. Thank you. So here's what we're trying to accomplish. Through the Caring Campus process, we want the student experience to be less transactional and more relational. What do I mean by that? Well, I'll give you a really simple operational example. Student comes up to any service window, could be financial aid, could be admissions and records, could be registration, could be counseling. There are multiple ways you can greet that student. The traditional transactional approach starts with, hi, what's your ID number? Now, granted, I'm going to need that information to help this student. But instead of beginning with that purely transactional approach, What if I began that interaction by saying something like, "Hi, my name's Ken. How can I make your day better?" I'm not going to do any more work for that student, but the way that I begin that engagement starts to set the tone for how the student can expect to be treated once they're at the institution and every time they're at that institution. So here are some examples of the kind of behaviors that we focus on. Specifically, when we're dealing with faculty, and again, I'll focus on this one group, that we have programs for both faculty and staff that are equally important. But these are the things, again, that the research tells us have an impact. So, for example, a lot of faculty, again, because that's the way we've always done it, spend most, if not all, of their first class session reading the syllabus and taking roll. We ask our instructors, please start the student experience with an engaging activity that begins the process of building a sense of community within the course. One of the most important things we think that you can do, especially if you're a classroom-based instructor, is learn your students' names. And in context, that means learn the name they want to be called, not just the name that Banner or PeopleSoft put on your roll sheet, but take the time to find out from the students, what name do you prefer? And then use that name whenever you're interacting with them. Right? The next one is pretty obvious. The syllabus needs to be comprehensive. It needs to be so clear that whenever a student has a question, all they have to do is go into Canvas, find the syllabus, and get the answer. Now we get into some of the more challenging behaviors, but they're really, really important. Moments that matter. We ask all faculty in the first third of the semester to make time to engage your students each in a one-on-one conversation. It doesn't have to be about anything heavy or significant, but simply that engagement, that willingness to talk to them individually really begins the process of building that relationship. It's a challenge for a number of reasons, right? We've got some faculty who simply say, I couldn't possibly do that. I have way too many students. And we have ways to do this that we can show them that helps them understand, no, they can find the time to do this. Another challenge we faced is some folks just feel uncomfortable with this, right? They're much more comfortable with this somewhat anonymous approach of being able to deal with students only as a group. But again, the data, the research tells us it's really important to have that one-on-one interaction to start building that sense of trust that makes the student feel like, okay, I want to do this and I'm going to stay and I'm going to be successful. You're going to grade your students. Well, we really, really push the idea of get away from that traditional high stakes. Your entire grade is based on a midterm and a final, and it may be a big project, to instead grading them regularly on lower stakes assignments that make them more comfortable with the experience of being assessed and evaluated. And then finally, the last behavior we focus on, right, we call compassionate coaching, or it's also known as simply being understanding with the student, is understand that treating all students exactly the same is not successful. And it is not the way that we should interact with our students. Again, the most common operational example is a student who comes to you and says, oh, Professor Sherwood, I'm sorry, I'm not going to get this assignment turned in on time. Well, the traditional approach, right, certainly the one that I was taught when I became an instructor back in the early 90s was, oh, I'm sorry, maybe you should drop the class and take it again when you have time to do your homework. Instead, what we ask instructors to do is ask them why. Have a conversation, find out what the challenges are this student is facing, and engage them in helping them find a solution so that they don't have to leave the class and they can continue to be successful. So we've been doing this, I said, for over 7 years now. What have we found? Well, if we look back at the institution where Caring Campus began, which was Odessa College, right? So right there in Texas, within 4 years of engaging this program, they had more than doubled their graduation rate. And they've been sustaining that level of success ever since. Not only that, on the next slide, we discovered that aside from simply improving performance overall, they also eliminated the achievement gap within 7 years. Right? So no more do we see those disparities and distinctions between the different demographic groups at the college and their level of success. We've seen that over time, this approach to treating students with care and compassion and understanding leads to greater success for all of our students, right? That they all find that they're achieving that same level of success. So we've been lucky, especially in the state of Texas, to have found some fantastic partners that have implemented this work and are really demonstrating the success of Caring Campus across the country. So, brief introduction. Happy to talk to folks later if you want to know more about Caring Campus.
Thank you so much, Ken. That was really helpful background. Dr. Ponce, we'll switch it over to you. You have led the effort to bring Caring Campus to Temple College. Can you give us some background information about your institution, and also what does Caring Campus culture look like at Temple College?
Thank you so much. I'd be happy to share that. So we were very fortunate to participate in the first round of Caring Campus that came to Texas. And so it is truly part of our culture here. Temple College is celebrating 100 years this year. So it's a very special year for us. We have 4 locations in Central Texas. Our major industries are healthcare, logistics, advanced manufacturing, semiconductor, technology, AI. There's a lot going on with the large growth in Central Texas, and so how we demonstrate higher education to students really mattered. We wanted to create that sense of belonging as we were also adding new programs to the college. We've also had several programs that are great support services that have helped students in so many ways, addressing the non-academic barriers. We have a circle of support and a long-standing partnership with the Central Texas Food Bank that also comes with many other resources. But I wanted to share that we're so grateful to our partners from Texas A&M Central and the Trellis Foundation for investing in them through a grant to bring mental health services onto the Temple College campus. And so thanks to a Trellis grant, they are creating a mental health center that is going to be opening on the Temple College campus now for all students, faculty, staff, and community members to be able to access. So not only great teaching space, but also great service to our broader community that really helps that sense of belonging. The biggest student success reforms that we've focused on over the last few years are implementing a caring campus culture, Texas Enroll Pathways. As part of our accreditation, we created a program called Focus to Finish, implementing 8-week courses, and then an onboarding redesign. Next slide, please. So Ken mentioned all of the, excuse me, I'm losing my voice, all of the Caring Campus attributes, everything from the experiences that faculty do on the first day of classes to the several activities that staff do. Our staff have not only implemented that, but they have gone above and beyond in that, not only wearing their name badges, but guiding students to where they need to go, making sure that online students also feel connected. We have a large online student population and a lot of students that take hybrid courses. They wanted them to feel that same sense of belonging. So it was also about creating activities and experiences for them, as well as pointing them in the right direction and making sure that they were aware of all of the services that we offer both on campus and virtually. If you could go to the next slide, and that's our Caring Campus logo. We have it on shirts and everywhere. But I wanted to talk a little bit about our onboarding redesign, because we really took the student experience in mind when we were developing our new facilities. We went through a modern transformation as we entered our next 100 years. We just added 4 new buildings, and we're also in the design phases to expand in our other campus locations. But part of it was rethinking how students enroll in classes on the first day. So we no longer have a physical front entrance admissions office or financial aid office or all of the traditional offices. Those offices, of course, still exist, but they're back-end operations. And what a student sees is a welcome center where they're able to connect with an enrollment advisor. So very open spaces, just like you would find at a bank experience or a Verizon store or an Apple store, where you really connect with individuals immediately. If you could go to the next slide. So enrollment advisors are cross-trained to help students with all of their enrollment processes, everything from creating an academic and a workforce plan to a financial plan of how they're going to pay for college. So it was really about making sure that students also were connected with an individual from the very beginning. That was one of the biggest standouts that we learned from going through Caring Campus professional development as a college is the connections that students make with people. And their enrollment advisors are their people. It's the person that they first interacted with, the person that they can come back and see anytime. We also expanded that enrollment advisor position to all of our dual credit advisors. So they were also cross-trained and called dual credit enrollment advisors. And they have one cohort of students that they see throughout their experience in dual credit. So it really allows plenty of time for students to establish relationship with that first person that they meet and interact with. If you can go to the next slide. We also wanted to make sure that those engaging experiences continued on with faculty. So faculty are doing an excellent job in making sure to have first day experiences, first week experiences. But what our faculty do here at Temple College is really impressive. When I came to the college, I learned that the math faculty were having their office hours or student hours inside of the Student Success Center. They would go to the math center and they would help with tutoring. They would create a safe space for students a comfortable space for students to be able to go and ask math questions. And they got, they had people showing up to office hours, and they had a lot of individuals that really took advantage of that quality time because they felt it was student time. And they were there to support them, and they were there in the spaces where there were also other tutors and other services. So when we created our brand new building, the one that's behind me, our new Temple College main building, we called it the Student Success Center, and all to continue on with our former Student Success Center. And we added even more resources to it, everything from anatomy and physiology lab, writing center, tutoring in all disciplines, but also bigger, broader spaces where faculty could get together with their student groups, consultation rooms where they can bring in, where students can meet with other students, but they can also meet with faculty and work on their assignments. It also happens to be on a floor with a lot of faculty offices, so they can conveniently walk over and meet with students. And so it's a really highly utilized space, really keeping that thought in mind to connect students with faculty. It also happens to be on the same floor that we have our university center. And this itself is a rendering. That space is actually now open. So I'll make sure to take a picture of that space, live space. And you can see the students in action. And we are partnering with Texas A&M Central to offer a university center. So on the Temple College campus, students can earn more than certificates, associate's degrees, adult education, everything that community colleges offer, but they also are bringing bachelor's, master's, and PhDs onto the Temple College campus. So it really allows students to stay here and experience their entire higher ed experience without having to relocate or go anywhere else. Next slide. Also, lots of intentional gathering spaces for students and faculty to meet, everything from coffee shops to lots of study rooms and study spaces, study cubby areas. There are lots of spaces throughout all of our new facilities that add specific pods and other things for study groups to be able to gather. Next slide. But here are some examples of what our faculty do here at Temple College to really embed Caring Campus from the very first day of class. Everything from Kahoot, interviews, selfie challenges, scavenger hunts, icebreakers, group team building. This happens on day one. So those kind of experiences where they get to meet other friends, other future study partners, maybe future spouses. But it really creates those experiences. These, the bottom are as an example of a student's slide talking about their family, their favorite music. So it really tries to bridge commonality between students. Of course, there's lots of book club and other experiences, professional development that our faculty do among themselves. And I wanted to create one special example that one of our faculty shared on situational awareness, rethinking those deadlines. So it was really more about making sure that you still have those same deadlines of turning work in, but taking the punitive part out of it really makes a huge difference. So what he does is he publishes deadlines, but he says you can turn it in anytime throughout the semester beforehand. You can turn it in all at the end of the semester. And what he found is instead of students waiting till the last minute or not meeting that deadline and feeling and wanting to drop the class the day after that, they instead now turn in their assignments early because that sense of relief of I can turn this in and work on it after my kids go to sleep, whenever I have time to work on this class. And so it has made a true difference in his class. And so he shares that with other faculty. If you'll go on to the next slide. But this is how we create sustainability within our campus to make sure that this carries on for years past the start of our Caring Campus professional development and coaching experience. We embedded it into our onboarding experience. So our provost and I meet with every single full-time faculty member and we talk to them about Caring Campus. We ask them some Caring Campus related questions and see if they're going to be a fit on the Temple College campus and understand the Caring Campus culture. And so that has made a difference in the hiring process, but it also makes future employees really aware of Caring Campus from the very beginning, the expectations, the how we treat students, the how we connect students, and this is for all role, both faculty and staff positions. While it takes a lot of time, it's definitely worth it and a great investment of that time and making sure that this is something that remains part of our culture going on. And then we also embed Caring Campus information into all of our all college days, so ongoing professional development within this experience. Next slide. Now, our faculty also do peer learning, but is this working? So we do a wide variety of focus groups, surveys, links on our email accounts. How are we doing? We have Caring Campus kudos submissions. We have cards that faculty and staff and students can fill out that they hand to people if they catch someone caring. We have our Caring Campus Above and Beyond awards, and so we really monitor the data, how we're doing, how we are doing with retention and graduation rates and progress for students, but also we wanted to see whether this was having an impact on students. And so our surveys ask questions like, did your faculty know your name? Did you meet other students in class? Have you made friends on campus? Do you have study groups? And so we have seen increases in all of those high engagement practices. And so it's working. We're seeing students stay on campus, more engaged, and this has made a huge difference for Temple College. And Ken, I want to thank you and Brad for taking time to come and not only bring this program to Texas, but also providing coaches and professional development. So it really truly was able to become part of our culture.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ponce.
I'm sorry, last one. Fun Fairies is our way to celebrate those individuals that are nominated. They go around and they provide little giveaways to say thank you for helping students or other people in their department. And then we celebrate the department that received the most amount of kudos for that semester. Thank you. Sorry, Jesus.
No worries. Thank you so much. Dr. Ramirez Wilson, I love your insight. You're the first university to join Caring Campus community. So for those online who may not know about TAMU Kingsville, can you give us some background? And also, how did you first become connected with the Caring Campus work?
Absolutely. Thank you, Jesus. And we are so proud to be the first Caring Campus University. We are beyond proud. And Dr. Ponce just mentioned a few minutes ago that Temple College is celebrating their 100th anniversary, and we are as well. We just finished our centennial year. There's a lot of pride at A&M University-Kingsville. Specifically because of the role we've played in the South Texas region since 1925. We're the first university established and continuously running in South Texas. So you can see on the screen, everyone's familiar with the state of Texas and that little star there in South Texas, not quite in the Rio Grande Valley, south of San Antonio. That was a population that just was not being served. So if you're familiar with South Texas, you know about the A&M or A&I, that was our prior name, Javelinas. There's a lot of pride in Javelina Nation. We serve a population of just under 7,000 students, and the majority of our students are undergraduates. We're well known for signature programs in teacher preparation. That's actually how we began as an institution, as a teacher's college. We're also very well known for engineering and agriculture. As a university that's part of the Texas A&M system, we also offer very well-developed, very prestigious graduate programs. A few examples are our MBA program. We also have a very popular educational leadership doctorate. So a lot of pride in A&M Kingsville and the history that we've served in South Texas. But before I get into our most recent work and specifically our work with Caring Campus, I have to set the stage on where we were just a few short years ago. So prior to 2022, even though we're well established, lots of pride in what we do, you could say that we were experiencing stagnancy. Declining enrollment, leadership turnover, and truly a lack of strategic vision. We weren't growing, and as opposed to having what I would call a student success mindset, I would call it more of that traditional higher ed, maybe create some barriers to success. So just recently, we really weren't moving in the way that we are now. Next slide, please, Andrea. Thank you. So a lot of things changed just a few short years ago. You'll see on the screen a photo of our president, Dr. Robert Vela. Some of you may be familiar with him in his prior role at San Antonio College, where he led the college to winning the Aspen Excellence Award for Excellence in Community College Service to Students. So he became the president of A&M Kingsville in June of 2022, and he had many items on his agenda. First and foremost, make sure he has the right team in place. So I'm very proud to be a part of A&M Kingsville. I joined us around this time too. And something that he likes to say, a Vela-ism, you may say, but he says, what is our North Star? How are we aligning all of our efforts and what are we working towards? And it was clear from his leadership and also the heart and desire of our faculty and staff that our new North Star needed to be student success. How are we serving our students and how are we serving our community? We are a regional university, but the connection to the community is so key, making sure that we are providing and producing the graduates that are needed to create the stable economy, and also making sure that we are accessible to students in our backyard, which is another Velaism. Are we serving the students who live here and are a part of our community? So during this time period, we got busy. So I want to just take a minute to highlight many of the things that happened in the 2022-2023 time period, one of which was to solidify our new mission, vision, shared values, and strategic plan. We previously had a strategic plan with over 100 priorities. I know if you're a strategic planner and you think, oh, yes, we do a lot as higher ed institutions, but if everything's a priority, nothing's a priority. So as we were developing our mission, vision, and shared values, before we even started with the Caring Campus journey, when we talked to stakeholders, our students, faculty, and staff, the number one shared value that emerged was care. So if you look at our strategic plan, you'll see that care is front and center. And that just speaks to who we are as a community, knowing that we serve a rural community and that what we do impacts the lives of not just students, but their entire families. Another important aspect that we launched is the 4 disciplines of execution, 4DX, which is a Franklin Covey model that works very closely with our strategic plan. We didn't want to just have goals and have a direction. We wanted the mechanism to make sure that not just the university leadership, but every department, every faculty and staff member was working towards those goals and those priorities. And the 4DX model allows us to do that. We also launched Caring Campus, and I'm going to get into some details on that in a minute, but it's been transformative for us. We were going through our SAC-COC reaffirmation at the same time. So we were looking at our processes and our procedures. And then also we looked at our list of program offerings to determine what is still relevant. What does our community need? And a couple of areas in which we are putting effort, energies towards growth is nursing and allied health. Specifically within our rural communities, we just don't have enough support for residents who can't get to even the city of Kingsville, who live in surrounding communities. And then when it comes to workforce development, we want to make sure that our students in our community have the short-term credentials to get them into the jobs that they want and desire quickly. Okay, next slide, please. So this is my final slide. I'm going to talk a little bit about our Caring Campus work, and then I know Jesus is going to lead us in some questions. But again, just want to start by saying that we're the first university to implement Caring Campus, and we're very fortunate that our president had implemented this model at San Antonio College previously. So when it came time to impact the culture of A&M Kingsville, he said we have to have Caring Campus as part of this work. Timeline-wise, we started implementing the behaviors for all employees in spring 24, and then behaviors for faculty in spring 25. And I want to just take a moment to talk about behaviors for all employees. Ken did a fantastic job talking about the Caring Campus behaviors, the structural behaviors. And I think what resonates so well about these behaviors is that they're not rocket science, right? These are things that we do in service to our students, to each other. A lot of it is just courtesy and, of course, care. So in looking at the behaviors for staff, which is how we started our implementation, we decided as an institution that these behaviors really should be for all employees. So on the right-hand side of the screen, you'll see a document that we match with many of our events, our trainings, simple and to the point. But yes, these were first identified for staff, but really all of our employees should be ready and available to offer the 10-foot rule. If you see a student who's lost or looks a little confused, offer assistance. Everyone should have a name tag. cross-departmental awareness. That's the same for faculty and staff, all of our employees. So we wanted to make that clear that these are behaviors outside of the classroom while we have a set of behaviors inside the classroom. So it hasn't been long that we've been on the Caring Campus journey, but I'd like to share that we took the model and ran with it. And part of what I love about this model is though they made the connection to Dr. Vela, that was the first connection through implementation. They identified myself in my role as Chief of Performance Excellence as the liaison for this work. I don't feel like I lead it. It's the faculty and the staff that lead it. I have two phenomenal committees that lead activities, trainings, ongoing communications. And the model itself, the coaching that Ken described, puts the onus on the faculty and staff to make Caring Campus their own. So I support them, I get out of their way, I give them ideas, and I make sure they have the resources that they need. So we're very, very fortunate to have people who have taken this work to heart. So finally, I mentioned that within the last few years, we have implemented many new strategies to impact student success. Very proud to share a couple of those success points. In our work with 4DX and of course Caring Campus, we want to make sure that students who are pursuing their education continue their education. We don't want to lose them for all of the reasons that Ken mentioned earlier, loneliness, disconnection. And so I'm really proud to share that both our fall to spring and our fall to fall retention rates have increased. Now, these are the traditional first time in college retention rates, but we've also begun looking at our non-traditional retention rates. How are our non-first time in college students being retained? What about our master's students? What about our doctoral students? So we're expanding how we measure this. But when it comes to fall to spring retention, we've experienced a 5 percentage point increase in 2 years. And for fall to fall retention, a 6.5 percentage increase in just 1 year. So we know these efforts are paying off. We know it's making an impact in a big way, and it has solidified our culture of student success. So thank you for giving me this time and looking forward to the discussion. Thanks, Jesus.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ramirez Wilson. We are opening up to questions if you all have any in the chat, but we will also have some additional questions on our end just to expand a little bit more on the presentations. I think the first one, super curious to kind of do a deeper dive on this. Can you all talk us through the difference between the faculty and staff commitments? And I know, Ken, you spoke a little bit about this on the virtual versus face-to-face environment, but anything you want to add on that as well?
Yeah, well, I think Dr. Ramirez Wilson did a great job of pointing out that what we call the staff behaviors can and should be practiced by everyone who works at the institution. So whether you're a frontline staff member, you're a faculty member, you're an administrator, to engage in those 5 behaviors on a regular intentional basis is really significant. But yeah, the point about online obviously has become significant since the COVID shutdown. And much like all of you had to figure out how to do your work from home during that period of time, we couldn't stop doing Caring Campus with the colleges that were interested. So we stepped back for a few months and really focused on how do we translate all of these behaviors to the online environment, because those students needed to be served at the time. And then I find this all the time with all the colleges that I speak to, a significant portion, if not a majority of classes are still being offered online at a lot of institutions. And so it became very important to figure out, how do we make these students feel like they belong when we don't get to interact with them in person, when it's all done on a screen like this? And we came up with some great, I think, counterbalance or alternate versions that really can help institutions achieve the same goals with their distance ed students that they were in person. And we've seen that paying off at a lot of institutions. And one of the great things about Caring Campus for us is we learn from every engagement. So everywhere we work, we learn from the experience of the professionals who are implementing the behaviors, and we get new recommendations all the time for what can you do. So I'll give you a quick example. I was working with a system office where the person who leads their DE approach said, you need to send them something. As soon as they're registered, they need to get a keychain or a mug or something that immediately makes them feel like they're a part of this family and this institution. And I thought that was such a great idea that I've started to incorporate it into our coaching examples when we're working with colleges. So I think I said, the behaviors for the classroom, they're unique because that's a unique situation. And that's why we have a different set of behaviors. But again, we want everyone practicing the behaviors that we introduce to the staff at the very beginning of this process.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Dr. Ponce and Dr. Ramirez Wilson, I think that kind of transitions over to our next question. I'm curious about the most important mindsets or cultural shifts needed among campus employees to make Caring Campus successful. Can you all share some examples?
Yeah, I think the most important thing to convey is that this isn't a program we're doing or a project or anything. This is part of our culture, and so that really makes it just part of how we operate and how we interact with students, how we interact with each other. And so I think that's what embeds it as a cultural change. And I think that one of the things that our faculty and staff have done that have made it so successful is they have a lot of fun with it. So it's as Ken mentioned, there are so many additional high engagement practices that have been created as part of Caring Campus. I mentioned peer learning earlier. So we have a session during All College Day that specifically has faculty and staff doing presentations on ways that they create a more caring campus environment. And so we're all constantly learning from each other. They're sharing it, but it really is about creating a fun space and a space where people can connect to each other.
Thank you, Dr. Ponce. Dr. Ramirez Wilson, would you like to add on to that?
Yes, I love what Dr. Ponce shared. I'd like to add that a mindset shift is that everyone contributes to the student experience. Everyone on campus. Whether you are in the classroom, whether you provide direct support to students or not, everyone impacts the campus experience. And so I want to give an example. There's a department on campus, the Office of Research and Innovation, and they help our faculty with their grant work, their grant projects or research development. And they wanted to contribute to the work of Caring Campus. And they said, how do we do this? How do we get out there? These are very talented individuals who are in their offices mostly. So they said, what we're going to do? We're going to do a first day of class photo opportunity and just make signs and see if students are interested. So they went out of their offices, they tried this thing, and students love it. So I think that sometimes we can fall into the trap of, these are for student facing only, or maybe this is just for student affairs. But the fact that this is cultural and everyone has an impact on making or breaking the student experience, I think that's gone a long way.
Thank you so much for that. I think we have two questions on the Q&A. Let's see. The first one. So Ken, I wonder if you want to expand for the rest of the group. What could scaling of this work look like at a large campus?
Yeah, I love that question because that really is very, very important to the success of Caring Campus at a cultural level. So I look at this from a couple of different perspectives. The first is conceptually, we look at Caring Campus as a social movement, which means we've got to have a group at the bottom, the grassroots, that mobilizes and starts to get things moving. And I think both of my co-presenters talked about, especially Dr. Ponce, about having a committee that really owns Caring Campus at the college and drives the work of getting it out to everybody. So that's the social movement part is, as Brad likes to say, he uses that old shampoo commercial, and they told two friends, and they told two friends, and so on, so that it grows exponentially. But more functionally, the way this usually works is that once we're done with the coaching component of Caring Campus, which is our initial engagement, we really kind of hand off the responsibility and the opportunity of scaling up to the institution. And so that becomes the work of the Caring Campus Committee, is starting to plan activities, and events that introduce Caring Campus. And then the second part is designing your own on-ground training where you then share Caring Campus with the rest of the institution. We always approach it from a cohort model. So we work with the college to identify and recruit folks, both for the staff and the faculty coaching sessions. And then we work with them to then turn around and be the ones that start to coach their colleagues. And so, the traditional name for that, I think, is the train the trainer model. We don't care what you call it, but that structure seems to work very well, that we begin with that really gets it, and then they start working with their colleagues because they're the ones who know the culture of the institution, right? We learn as much as we can, but really it's the folks there on ground who really are better prepared to respond and move the work forward so that it becomes embedded in the culture of the institution.
Great. Thank you so much for that. I know we have a couple more minutes, so if folks are interested in an additional question, please feel free to submit them in the chat, the Q&A. I know we have an additional one in the chat. If possible, could you share, encourage, how are institutions encourage or require faculty to utilize early alert technology to identify students who appear to be in distress or in need of support?
So I'm going to turn that over to my partners here because I don't have direct experience with that.
Thank you, Ken. I was going to mention something really creative that our dual credit team did. They created a success navigator role specifically to go beyond the technology that we all have of early alerts or emails or other kind of things that take processes through technology. And our student success navigators interact directly with faculty and with students, identifying problems earlier, talking to our school district partners, talking to school district facilitators. They are really the bridge between success. And so that has helped taking early alert technology to the next level to have student success navigators that really help identify problems quickly and can pick up a phone and make a phone call and try to identify different resources that are available for those students. Also, I wanted to just briefly expand on that expansion and sustainability piece for large campuses. One thing that we started here at Temple College, beyond integrating it into our hiring practices, we noticed that this was also something that we could integrate as part of our human resources process through faculty hiring. So we hired a director of faculty onboarding specifically to help integrate Caring Campus more than the specific training and onboarding and mentoring that is happening through different departments, giving faculty their textbooks and helping them prepare for other stuff. Our faculty onboarding director really helps with Caring Campus and with everything else that faculty needs, and as well as keeping them connected to campus and introducing them to other faculty and other students. And so they really create that ongoing bridge that helps make this a bigger and broader part of our culture.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ponce. Dr. Ramirez Wilson, would you like to?
Sure, I can respond quickly. And I see the question in the chat from Randall. I'm happy to connect you with our team who oversees that process. We do have an early alert system, and we're in the process of making it a requirement. We've had this early alert system for a while. It was not as utilized as it could be, but I do think this aligns well with the work of Caring Campus. Specifically, there's a behavior on the faculty end of giving students feedback early and often. So we're in the process of requiring where we now have added accountability to this piece, but we're not quite there yet, but happy to make that connection for you with my team, if that would help you.
Thank you so much. And then we have one more additional question on the Q&A. They were curious about how this plays out in preparing students for employment in organizations that might be, let's say, a little bit less caring. So we're thinking about durable skills, employers talking about consistency, professionalism, accountability. Does, for example, affording deadline flexibility in the classroom have any drawbacks in building these skills?
Can I answer this one?
Absolutely.
It's right at the top of my mind. We actually did a training, and there's a second workshop happening right now with our faculty. This question comes up very often. Are we setting our students up for failure? And what I tell people, and of course it's not black and white, every situation is different, but what I tell people is this is about caring, not coddling. We need to set up our students for success. There are requirements, there are expectations, there are expectations of excellence, right? So I think it's important to keep that in mind, while also understanding that we don't have to be the higher ed of old, where we put barriers in place just to see if they could jump over them. The learning should happen in the classroom with the content, and not necessarily with our processes. We're all human. There's that we all are faced with external factors that we have to navigate. So I can't tell you a black or white answer, but I think it is very, very important in this process to uphold the high standards. This is not about lowering standards at all. So when it comes to this, I know it's not a silver bullet answer, but this is what I tell my leaders. This is caring, not coddling.
We have a great answer to that particular, I'll call it dilemma, from a faculty member at another institution. When she's doing Caring Campus training, that comes up, she responds and asks, why is that your job? Her perspective is all of our students have plenty of people who are training us on those levels of accountability, in particular, being there on time, right? They have to pay their rent on time. They have to get to work on time. They have to get their kids to school on time. Wouldn't it be better for faculty in the classroom to focus on helping their students master the content of the course as their primary responsibility, and not spend so much time worrying about, right, oh, I've got to treat everybody the same, and therefore everybody has to have a deadline, and therefore we punish the students who don't make the deadline. And what we have found is that those faculty who worry less about that part of the process and more about content are finding their students are learning better. And when it comes to ultimate performance on the assignments, they're far more successful when, as we talked about earlier, that stress is relieved from them, right? Taken up off of their shoulders so they can focus just on the content of the material. And I've always loved that answer. And to put another label on what Dr. Ramirez Wilson was just saying is there's a difference between rigor and rigidity. You will continue to be rigorous by having standards, but you don't need to be rigid in how you implement those standards. And it's when we remove that unnecessary rigidity that we see students being more successful.
I'm going to use it. I like it.
Please do.
Well, thank you all so much. We're at time. We really appreciate you giving us some background on Caring Campus and how it plays out at both Temple College and TAMU Kingsville. I think super interesting conversation. I hope folks got a lot of interesting information from this discussion. Thank you all so much for taking the time to join us. All of you panelists, we really appreciate your insights and your knowledge on this. And we can't thank you enough. And thank you all for joining us online. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you all. And we'd be happy to connect you as well as if you have any additional questions.